Because I use a wheelchair, I experience barriers and inaccessibility in a lot of aspects of my life, but I would say in connection to university and academia, I experience it most frequently in the university buildings that are often old and not accessible because they don't have ramps or elevators. And another issue is that if a university building or a room on campus is technically accessible, then the information that it is often not very easily accessible. I have never seen any kind of register at a university where I can just look up if a lecture hall is accessible to me, and that will be super helpful. But because we don't have that kind of register, I often have to make calls or email people ahead of time. Because of that, accessibility often feels like an afterthought, and I have to just advocate for myself.
What you just heard is something people in academia still run into every day because they have a disability, and certain parts of university life still aren't as accessible as they should be.
In today's episode of Make It Make Sense, we're looking into what inaccessibility really looks like in academia and why it also matters as something we research.
Yeah, so stay tuned and let's go.
Welcome to Make It Make Sense. We are Marlene and Paulina, two research assistants at the Obama Institute for Transnational American Studies at JGU Mainz.
In this podcast, we take you on a deep dive into the world of our study program. Together with guests from all throughout the discipline, we talk about everyday societal topics you might not have guessed are connected to our field.
Join us in making sense of the issues that surround us and, most importantly, have fun listening. Hi everyone, welcome back.
Isn't it crazy that this is already our 5th episode of season 2?
Time flies when you're having fun. And we almost made it to the end.
Yeah, but fear not, we still have 2 great episodes ahead of us, including today's topic, disability or inaccessibility, specifically in an academic context, as you were able to gather from our little cold open just now that we did.
We switched it up there a little bit, and we just talked about it. Cold openings, they're just Brooklyn Nine-Nine coded in my head.
Yeah, or The Office, yeah.
I haven't seen The Office. I'm so sorry. I will get so much hate for this. Anyways, it might seem like very big a topic to tackle in just one episode, but bear with us.
Yeah.
And with that, just immediately, let's get started. Let's start by getting into what we all know and have encountered ourselves. Maybe. The lived realities of inaccessibility in academia.
Exactly. The voice you heard earlier was that of our friend Luca. Big reveal who the voice was.
Hi,
and
Luca.
Shout out to Luca. Yeah.
Luca is a North American studies scholar based in Bonn, Germany. And they actually are in a wheelchair.
Yeah, and since neither of us has a physical disability, we wanted to bring a third voice onto this podcast today to talk about what it really feels like. Unfortunately, Luca can't be here with us in the studio for the entire episode, amongst other things, for inaccessibility reasons. But we managed to gather some sound bites and ask some questions. And yeah, we're really happy that they're part of this episode.
Yeah, they're here with us in spirit.
Exactly.
And yeah, I mean, so many things at universities are not built, or they are built for non-disabled bodies.
Yeah. They're not built for disabled bodies.
Yes.
Exactly.
I mean, we have architectural barriers. Then a big part of academia and like scholarly lifestyle, if you will, are conferences, which always include like issues of travel, mobility, then I don't know, hostels wherever you go.
Yeah.
And then back at a university setting, I mean, just take classrooms.
Yeah.
Accessibility statements there. We have then, if we talk about like things that are shown in a classroom, just stuff like captions on videos.
Yeah.
If you think about that. So yeah, I mean, there are a million things that we could get into right now, but we asked Luca again to list the situations they find the most challenging.
Yeah, and here's what they said.
The most common moments of inaccessibility that I experience are mostly physical barriers, like steps to get somewhere, stairs to get up or downstairs, and there's just no elevators or no ramps. Also, bathrooms are often in the basement without an elevator, or they're just super cramped and tiny, and it's really hard to get into the bathroom itself or get into the bathroom stall. And it just takes away the spontaneity. I always have to plan ahead and, do research days ahead if I want to go anywhere to find out if it's accessible. And yeah, just like always plan ahead, even if it's just something as basic as where and when I can use the bathroom.
Understandably so, they kind of feel frustrated, right?
Yeah. And then, of course, there are invisible disabilities, as one might call them. ADHD, for example, chronic illnesses, other types of neurodiversity. And have we encountered any of them? I know we have.
That was a very nice look that she just gave you guys.
That was scripted.
Yeah, because I actually personally have encountered that because I do have ADHD. And that kind of, I don't know, became for me more visible in the university context. Because, for example, a lot of learning techniques or university structures, just bureaucracy and stuff like that, that we either hear about or experience ourselves are not necessarily compatible with ADHD. And I just had to think, when we were preparing for this episode, I had to think of one example where I found myself in a university setting and there was one person talking to multiple students, and I'm just not going to name names or contexts specifically because that is not what this is about. But this person was sharing learning techniques as well, or like how to write a paper, which we also did. But I was towards the beginning of my university career, so it was a little bit more baseline. And I just remember sitting there thinking, when this person was talking about, I think, time management and like you do this then and this then and just only work from 9 to 5 or whatever. I don't remember exactly what it was. But I remember sitting there and being like, have you ever thought about doing that from a neurodiverse point of view? Yeah. Because that is not how my brain works. Like, I physically cannot do that, sit down, have these hours and be just like, oh yeah, I'm just going to manage my time now. That is not how it works. And I know there are a lot of people out there who can relate to that. So also, if you think of last season where we talked about academic writing, at least for the tips that I gave, I tried to be very conscious of the fact that, I mean, like the Pomodoro technique and stuff that we talked about, they can work for neurodiverse people as well. And all these fears that we have, they obviously still are included. But just the fact that it is not something that is regularly talked about, or the tips that we hear in like writing classes or other contexts, like I said, they don't necessarily make students with ADHD or maybe autism feel included.
Yeah, that's right. Let's perhaps move over to a different angle on this whole topic, because while this is something we encounter a lot in our daily lives, it is also something that we study within the field of American Studies, right?
Yeah, disability studies is a subgenre, if you will, a research focus. And that is definitely a thing. Again, American Studies is so broad, and it is everyday life. Just like aging studies, which we did in this season as well. Disability studies is a whole field to get into to kind of make sense of lived experiences.
Yeah. And I mean, in a nutshell, this is what American Studies does, is it deals with human lived experience. And the two of us actually went to a student conference, not as presenters. We were there to shoot some stuff for our social media. Shout out to our Instagram. And if you've been following us for a while, it's been a while since we did that. Maybe you remember this. We had the 3 hosts of that student conference do a little takeover. And that conference was about ableism and disability in the media. So even students, I mean, not just researchers, but students are also dealing with this in classes and outside of classes, in conferences.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was really cool as like just a student conference. It was amazing. And the presentations were all really awesome.
Yeah.
I know a couple of ones we remember. One was on Game of Thrones. We had Harry Potter. We had Poor Things.
The movie, yeah.
What else?
Oh, God. There were so many. A lot of pop culture examples. The range was very broad again.
Absolutely.
And if the 3 girls who hosted that conference are listening right now, shout out to you girls, because
you did an amazing job.
They did an amazing job, and it was really cool. And shout
Also,
out again to
hi Luca, because they actually participated in that conference as a presenter, and the topic was disability representation and the disabled self in a little life, which great topic. I'm very biased because I like them a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And so, of course, we had to ask them about that and what it was like to have disability as a research topic, because from what we know or have known previously, this is not their main research focus.
Yeah, so play Luca.
Researching and writing this paper was actually really personal and intimate because some of Jude's experiences were so relatable. And it was the first time that I ever thought about disability in an academic context, like thought about it on a deeper level, because I was writing a paper. I had read a little bit about disability studies and some introductions before, but actually writing a paper is a lot different. And I remember doing a close reading of a scene where Jude has to get up the stairs to get to his apartment and drag his wheelchair up the stairs with him because the elevator in the building is broken. And I could relate to his feelings of rage and frustration, his physical exhaustion from climbing the stairs. And I noticed how the scene dragged out quite a bit, which also really reflected for me that it takes longer when something is inaccessible. It just takes more time. And at the same time, it showed me how different the disability experience is. I also did a reading of a scene where Jude describes his wheelchair as something really negative. I think he calls it something like a sulking, sullen ogre that just sits in the corner of his bedroom. And I personally don't see my wheelchair like that at all. It is always close to me, even when I'm not sitting in it. And more importantly, it is an extension of my body that gives me freedom and autonomy, and it allows me to live independently. So it is actually something that I really cherish and probably one of my most prized possessions.
Yeah, so I haven't read A Little Life, but it has to be a great novel and very fitting as a study material with regard to disability. And we actually brought our own pop culture example today.
Exactly, because we thought of the show Atypical on Netflix. I think you haven't watched it, but I watched it a little while back when it first aired. And side note, we're not basing this entire episode around our pop culture example as we tend to do. But of course, as study material, this is one of the greatest, maybe
Probably,
most recent examples.
One of the best that one can think of.
It is a really good example. Let's put it like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you haven't seen it. For those who haven't, it's basically a family dramedy following the protagonist Sam, who's on the autism spectrum and works towards getting more independence, and therefore it's somewhat of a coming-of-age narrative as well, and very much a family-centered narrative.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of tropes of how the family centers kind of around his needs, his special needs in some cases. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of I think it's 2 or 3 seasons, so it's not that long on Netflix, but yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah. And this show is actually a great example for what we're talking about. I mean, obviously, because it became popular on Netflix. And of course, representation matters for real world accessibility. And this is actually a perfect callback to our asexuality episode in season 1 with Dr. Kim Kotel, right?
Absolutely. Because a change or a rise maybe in representation can really prompt real world changes. So yeah, it's just amazing that we have this very popular Netflix show with an autistic character front and center.
Yeah. Maybe to talk about it a little more, because I haven't seen it, but I just, from what I heard in the media, you could look at it from different angles, right?
Yeah.
Could you think of any? I mean, if just from what I've gathered, there's, for example, there's something that people call feel-good autism. Do you know what that is? Or can we get into that for a second? Like, how could we possibly look at this show as a study material? Say we want to write a paper about this in a class on disability studies.
So for me, to highlight something else first, it really was more about the family narrative, because the family is also, spoiler alert, kind of falling apart around him. But everyone is so worried about him all the time, and they're so used to tending to his needs that these things then change. So for me, family dynamics was a really, really big part of the overarching plot, is that he wants to gain his independence a little bit more, and he wants to travel alone, for that matter. So just thinking about independence and self-determination, you guys remember that word, for a disabled body, or a disabled person rather, who maybe just has different kind of needs. And then how to, I don't know, incorporate all these ideas. That was really interesting for me.
Yeah, definitely. So if you haven't seen the show, that's a recommendation from us to you. And we asked Luca how they perceive representation in the media and how it matters to them.
Disability representation in the media that we consume today is still super limited and often pretty stereotypical. I've noticed that movies, shows, and books portray people with disabilities as an inspiration for non-disabled people, and really get stuck on seeing disability as something connected to tragedy or as something to be pitied. And accurate and positive representation really matters, because media influences how disabled people are treated in everyday life, and what we need more of are people with disabilities represented as full social subjects, as people, and as people that are more than their disabilities, as friends, partners, parents, co-workers, as people who have a life and an identity outside of and beyond their disability.
So, let's talk about that more. What does real life change look like?
So for us, we always come back to university, because this is where our life center
We come
is.
from academia, yeah.
So conferences, which we mentioned in the beginning, they start adding accessibility statements even more prominently. We just went, by the time this airs, this will have been over a year, which is insane.
Oh my God.
But we
Anyway,
went to the annual meeting of the German Association for American Studies.
Yeah.
And they had like quiet rooms everywhere and similar rooms, quiet area, safe spaces, however they called it. I think different buildings had different names, to be honest. But the idea is the same, that if you're, for example, overstimulated because of like neurodiversity, which is a thing that can happen very regularly, or if you need some other form of attention because of inaccessibility reasons, conferences start like looking at that a little bit more. And then at university we have hybrid formats a lot with up and coming lecture programs or out of classroom experiences are being structured. So hybrid formats is a really big thing, and maybe something that most people don't really have in mind, but like campus maps are getting better. Right?
That's right, yeah. And I mean, for us, we've been here a while. We haven't necessarily looked at a campus map, at least of JGU in a while. But yeah, that's a big thing. I think that's often maybe also not on people's radar, that people rely on that. And not just JGU students in their first year, but also other researchers, persons who come here from other places or other universities. Yeah, websites have built-in features for accessibility. For example, people with a visual impairment, or just it's things as simple as descriptions of photos or something that they're included.
Or just captions, which we mentioned in the beginning. Captions for video material.
Exactly, yeah. But there's a lot of things that still need work, right?
Yes.
Especially the things that Luca described earlier in the episode.
Absolutely. And so to kind of zoom out maybe onto the big picture that we're trying to paint here, and also get back to our point from before, American Studies lets us connect everyday experiences, cultural representations, and the social structures we live in.
Yeah, and Luca is an American Studies student too. So we asked them in what ways they connect their study field to this topic of disability and inaccessibility. So roll the tapes.
American Studies has actually really helped me understand my disability not as something isolated or purely personal. It's something shaped by broader societal and structural conditions, and American Studies, with its focus on power, history, and cultural narratives, gave me an emancipatory framework for understanding my own experiences and the forms of social exclusions that I encounter. I was able to contextualize and deconstruct experiences for which I've been lacking the language or could only interpret with like ableist frameworks. And instead of reading those experiences as individual failure or like failure on my part, American Studies has actually given me tools and concepts to understand them as part of a structural violence, and that shift from the personal to the structural is how I connect my field to questions of disability and inaccessibility.
That's so smart and so interesting to hear.
It's really amazing how they can just kind of connect their lived experience to the study program.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, I think that was the perfect closer to this episode.
Yeah.
We're continuing on with the tradition of me being the one.
I appreciate you so much. I feel so bad every time I do it. Not gonna
have
lie.
to wrap it up, unfortunately. But yeah, we started. This is nice, isn't it? We started with Luca, and we're going to end on Luca. Not quite. You're going to have to listen to us for just a minute longer for our obligatory shout-outs.
Yes, because as always, follow the Instagram, folks. We have some very fun content there, including our little teaser trailer for each episode 1 week before it posts.
Yeah, we have one left. Can you believe it? One episode.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, subscribe to this podcast.
Where did the time go?
I don't know. This went by crazy fast.
This is insane.
But yeah,
what it is.
before we get nostalgic and all sad and emotional,
We're going to do that next episode.
we have to save it and bottle it up one last time. So yeah, subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen to it and tune in for next week's episode, which is going to be our last one for the season.
But we're going out with a bang, you guys, so stay tuned.
Yeah.
We're not going to reveal who our last guest is just yet, but you'll know in just a week.
Exactly. Hit us up with your best guesses. And also, don't forget, by the way, that you can reach out to us via Instagram. Tell us who you would like to see on the show, what topics you would like us to explore. And
yeah, we'll talk to you in 2 weeks' time for our final episode of season 2.
Oh, God.
Dramatic gasp.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I would say scholars and students with disabilities can actually bring a lot to the table and contribute a lot to the kind of conversations that we have in and outside of the classroom. I think we have a lived experience of understanding a world that is not built for us. The world that we move in is built and designed by and for able-bodied people, and we often have to problem solve around moving around in that space with the physical and mental abilities that we have, with the tools and the mobility aids that we use. And me and my friends actually often say that we're pretty good at problem solving because we problem solve all the time, just because we have to figure out how to get from A to B in a sort of space that is just not designed, or often not designed, with us in mind.
Make It Make Sense is the official podcast of the Obama Institute for Transnational American Studies at JGU Mainz, Germany. This podcast is hosted by Marlene Winkler and Paulina Schlosser and edited by Paulina Schlosser. We're recording at the sound studios of the Zentrum für Audiovisuelle Produktion at JGU.
For more information on us, check out our website, and don't forget to always keep up with us on Instagram at Obama Institute. Thank you for listening.